Hi everyone, this is Yana, and today I'm sharing a second card using new STAMPtember products from Simon Says Stamp. If you missed my first video with sugar-coated fruity cards, you can find it here. I'm going to be working with this fabulous stencil called Christmas Scene. It's a fantastic stencil because it not only has a large positive mask, and by the way, this is 6x6, so it can be used on vertical and or on horizontal cards too, but it also has these cool negative pieces. This really extends the possibilities and lets you do a whole lot more with your stencil. Before I'm going to use this stencil, I'm going to add a very light coat of stencil adhesive because I want it to stay in place, especially that little divider there at the bottom. I'm using Martha Stewart stencil adhesive spray, and I'm going to spray it just once. It's actually more than enough, and I'm going to use my hand to try to remove some of the stickiness so that it doesn't transfer onto my paper. It's best to spray this outside as it has a bit of a smell to it. But it was actually too late for me to go out. I often film my videos at night, so I just used a color catcher box from Clear Snap to spray this adhesive right there on my craft table. I'm then going to place my stencil onto white cardstock, and this is Nina's Solar White. I'm not actually going to use this stencil just yet, but I need to place it on my paper as a guide so that I can position the negative pieces inside. Once I have them there, I'm going to remove the main stencil and use just the negative pieces for now. So see, that's the beauty of the stencil. You can use it in two different ways. To do my inking, I'm going to use the Surf Blue ink from Simon Says Stamp. You can use whatever color you like, but I wanted to have a blue plus gray color combo on my card. And I'm basically going to lay a very light layer of ink onto my cardstock. I'm starting on the stencil and moving up or away from it. And I'm not pressing very hard at all. This way, I'm adding more ink right next to the stencil and less ink further from the stencil. I'm creating a bit of a gradient here, going from light blue to white. After I'm happy with the amount of ink, I'm going to remove the negative stencil and we'll move on to adding actual snow to my card. Well, maybe not actual snow, but after I'm done with this, it's sure going to look like real snow. I need to put my original stencil back in place and add embossing paste to the white space that represents snowy hills on my card. I'm using paste from Ranger, but I'm far from being a paste expert, so basically I'm just using what I have. And I actually like what I have. I really do like this paste. I'm going to use a palette knife from Teresa Collins and will add a pretty thick layer of paste to my card through the stencil. It's not going to be even because, like I said, I'm no pro when it comes to this. But it's okay, I'm going to cover up the imperfections later with some fun die cutting. After I'm done applying embossing paste, I'm going to remove my stencil, and you do have to remember to wash this and also the palette knife and the craft mat right away, or at least wipe it clean so that you do not ruin your tools, as this stuff is almost impossible to get out after it dries. I'm then going to add the Kaleidoscope embossing powder from Stampendos to my card. This is a clear powder with tiny glitter particles inside. The glitter is not clear, it's slightly colored, so it creates a very nice effect. I've been using it a lot lately, and I'll have links to other videos using this product. You can see that the embossing powder sticks not only to the paste, but also to the inked area around it, and it's a good thing. I don't want the powder to stick just to the paste. I want it to be present on other areas on my card as well. So now I'm going to let this dry for at least 30 minutes. After my paste is dry, I'm going to apply heat with my heat tool to melt the embossing powder. This is something I learned from Jennifer McGuire. She is the best when it comes to stencils and pastes and just about anything. It's quite hard to see if I'm actually melting anything or not, but I'm trying to move my paper and tilt it towards the light to be able to see what I'm doing. I'm adding heat not only to the snowy hills, but also to the inked areas where I have some of the extra powder. Now, by having powder on both areas, I'm able to create a continuous snowfall. I'm not sure if that's the proper word, but I'm trying to make it look like the snow is still falling on my card, hence the glitter particles on the inked area, not just on the snowy hills. Now, I could have left the uninked area just plain white without the embossing paste, but by adding the paste, I was able to create a raised hill that really looks like a hill covered with snow. It's just gorgeous in real life. Now, I'm not done with my stencil just yet. I'm going to use it again to create a few trees on my background. I'm going to use white pigment ink from Clear Snap and will apply ink through the stencil just to whiten the inked area. It's not going to be completely white, just a little bit. And I'm also going to add that same kaleidoscope embossing powder to each of the trees to create some dimension, but not quite as much as I have on my hills. I could have used embossing paste again, the same one that I used for the hills, but I think that would have created a bit too much texture on my card. And I wanted to have just a slightly raised area, and embossing powder worked perfect for that. Next, I'm going to add a sentiment in the white space at the top. I'm using the same surf blue ink that I used for my inking. I'm also going to stamp the same sentiment in clear embossing ink so that I can emboss it with clear embossing powder for a raised and shiny effect. I'm using clear embossing ink on top of the blue one just to make sure that my sentiment stays wet long enough for me to add the embossing powder. After my main panel is ready, I can begin assembling my card. I'm going to use this gray diagonal stripe paper from Teresa Collins, and I'm going to adhere it to a white A2 top folding card base. Next, I want to add photo corners to the corners of my main panel, the corners that you would usually use on layouts. I want to have a bit of a contrast and also to frame my piece. I could have created a mat out of black cardstock to be placed under the main panel, but these corners seemed like a much better idea, something out of the ordinary. To adhere main panel to my card, I'm going to use quite a lot of foam adhesive. I want to make sure that I'm adding adhesive not only to my panel, but also to the corners, and as I need them to stay in place. Now, this black adhesive is from Imaginess. It's actually discontinued, but I think Scrapbook Adhesives and Teresa Collins also have colored adhesive tape. But you can use white adhesive for this. I just happen to have a lot of this black tape, so I'm trying to use it whenever I can. Now that my main panel is adhered, I'm going to add, or actually to make, a few embellishments for my card. I'm going to use this banner die from the Holidays at Home set to die cut 2 banners. One out of white cardstock and one out of gray diagonal stripe paper. When cutting the second banner, I'm trying to keep the directionality of the stripes the same so that it would match the directionality of the stripes on my card. I think this is going to make the card a little bit more appealing to the eye. I'm going to stamp a word holiday on the white banner using black ink. There is a matching stamp that fits right inside that banner. I think it says Christmas, but I thought that it wouldn't really work for this card, so I used a holiday one instead. But really, you can stamp just about anything on banners like this. I'm also going to tie a little bit of gray twine from Doodlebug around my main panel. I wanted to have an additional gray element to go with my pattern paper, and this twine worked perfectly for this. Now, I did stamp and die cut a few birds using stamps and dies from the same Holidays at Home set. I used C3 and C5 Copic markers to add a little bit of color to the birds and adhered them onto my main panel. I used foam adhesive to create some more dimension for my card. Finally, I used the luminary circle die and die cut a bunch of confetti pieces out of that same gray diagonal stripe paper and scattered them on my snowy hills. I could have used enamel dots here or sequins or another small embellishment, but I really wanted to have something that would match my background there, so that's why I decided to use these die-cut confetti pieces. And that finished my card for today. I love how it turned out, especially that very subtle background that I created with the stencil. Thank you for watching. You can find the list of supplies to create this card in the video description and also on my blog. If you're looking for more videos using products from Simon Says Stamp, be sure to check out the link you see on the screen. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the thumbs up button. Thanks. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I have new videos coming out every week. Thanks, and bye!